Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we're going to be going over the top 5 tips that I think every single Kayle player needs to know. Now, I am releasing this video right as she is going live, and hopefully I can reach a few people before they try and first time the new Kayle in ranked, and hopefully deter those people from showing up in your solo queue. If I could just help just like a few people before they go into a first time rank with Kayle, this video will be a success in my eyes. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Lofi. I do educational content. I do tip videos, do guide videos, do opposition reports, stream sometimes, and I just kind of answer any questions. Gonna link my Discord as well in the description if you want to get a hold of me and ask me any questions. I'm always trying to be as responsive as possible and help you guys as much. My personal experience, I've peaked at Diamond 3 promos, if that is all what you are curious about. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I want to go over this as the first tip because this is usually where the most people are going to see it, and I think this is the absolute most important thing, is the Kayle still has a very similar play style to what she did. She is an extremely poor early game champion and extremely strong in the late game. So what this means is you should be picking this only in certain situations. You should not be blind picking this Kayle. If you blind pick this Kayle and the enemy team ends up going Pantheon top and a Lee Sin and they snowball on you, there's absolutely nothing you're going to be able to do because they're going to be able to end the game and they're going to be able to gank you a lot. The Pantheon's going to be able to poke you out of lane a lot, stop a lot of your CS and your farming and your scaling. So really try and pick Kayle. It should be a pocket pick in my opinion, where you have the counter pick. Maybe you see a tank, maybe you see a Vladimir, something that takes a while to scale up. This is going to be an extremely good time to pick Kayle. Also, you should be looking at the enemy team comp and what is going on with them. Are they a very strong early game team? Do they have like a nightmare comp for Kayle? Would be a Pantheon top, a Lee Sin mid, or a Lee Sin jungle, LeBlanc mid, something like a Lucian out of the ADC, and maybe like a mage ADC or a mage support, and they're just trying to end the game as quick as possible before she really comes online, and that's really where she is going to show a lot of her weaknesses. So really please do not pick Kayle early when that is going on. Now, secondly, I want to talk about Kayle and her kit. This is still going to be kind of involved in the first part and just kind of when you should be picking Kayle. Things that you should look for when you are picking Kayle is a hyper carry. A hyper carry is it just scales so exceedingly well with Kayle because you provide that huge invulnerability with your ult, and then also an amazing speed up with your W, and then a little bit of peeling with your Q. So she's going to pair very well with ADCs like Jinx, like Kog'Maw, like Kai'Sa, things that just need a little bit of help and they can just destroy late game team fights and be a huge assisting cast. So the new Kayle really is going to be able to help them out quite a bit because the movement speed is going to help them kite, and then the vulnerability is going to stop a lot of diver potential. So those are the things I want you to be looking at when you are wanting to pick Kayle in the in solo queue. Please don't let me catch you just blind picking it, first picking Kayle, because there are going to be a lot of counters that come out because she's not an insanely new kit that is going to be extremely different from the previous one. She is still kind of similar to her old self, so a lot of people are going to have a decent understanding on how to deal with it, unlike something like a new champion like Kled, or maybe a big rework like what happened with Urgot where you had to completely change your playstyle. So that will wrap up tip number 1. If you have any questions on when to pick Kayle, hit me up in the comments down below. I'll definitely help you out. Alright, let's jump into tip number 2. I want to talk a little bit about her laning phase and how you should be playing it out with Kayle. The number one most important thing you need to understand with Kayle is your ability to kite people out and to do damage from range. Now, what I want you guys to really understand with your W, because this is just such an amazing movement speed spell. First of all, it's great for ganks because you can speed up both your and your jungler and increase your close potential when they are looking for that. So always use that when they are looking to gank. It has a great range. But what we're going to be talking about is your ability to escape and kite here. This is going to be really important for things like Kled or things like a Darius. Say Darius just got a phage proc from killing a minion and he's looking to run at you with that increased movement speed and just get you with the apprehend and slow. So you do not want to use this W reactively. You want to use it proactively to get into a good position and really kite him out as much as possible, and to get at your sweet spot where you can damage them but they can't damage you when you're going against a melee champion. And this is going to be a great way to play it out. And then also when they use their mobility spell after they use their mobility spell, sorry, you want to be throwing out your Q and getting the slow on them and the increased magic and the shred from the armor and magic resist. So keep this in mind. Be using your W to dodge skill shots and use your Q after they use their mobility, or they're just looking to run at you and they have closed a bit of distance, maybe because they have increased movement speed or something like that. You should be using the Q a little bit more reactively. So proactively with your W and reactively with your Q as more of a defensive, and really look to optimize the dead zone that melee champions have when they're trying to approach it, where you can hit them and they cannot hit you. And I think this will serve you quite well. These cooldowns are going to be rather long in the early game. I know I have a bit of cooldown reduction here, so you really don't want to be using them all nilly-willy, and always look to take advantage of your ability to dodge skill shots with this massive movement speed from your W. If you have any questions about kiting, again, with tip 1, and as with all the tips in this video, I try and be as just help out as many people as possible. So if you have any questions for me, please hit me in the comments, and I will definitely get around to them. All right, that will wrap up tip number 2. Okay, and getting into tip number 3 with Kayle. If you are poor at this, if you're maybe a top laner that doesn't really play too many ranged champions, here, let's clear out these minions. They're getting a little bit crazy right now. So what I want you guys to be able to do and be able to practice is your ability to orb walk. If you, I know a lot of, I wouldn't put this as a tip if it was more of an ADC champion and only ADCs were playing Kayle. This is going to be important for top laners that do not have a good understanding of orb walking with ranged champions. I know all the high elo ones do, but people in low elo might not be used to the play style. When you are playing Kayle, you need to be able to orb walk, and what I mean by that is to be able to auto move, auto move, auto move, auto move, and this will help you kite out because you are extremely squishy, but you put out an insane amount of damage. So again, you want to kind of be staying in your max range of the circle. You want to keep the enemy on the outer ring of your circle. This is going to be the best place where you have the highest threat and they have the lowest threat. So always, if they're taking a step forward, maybe take a step back to keep them on that edge, and really try and, if you're chasing them down, kind of walk them along like that. So just keep in mind that orb blocking is going to be really important. Go into the practice tool, get used to the different attack speeds at different thresholds, maybe one with a stinger, maybe one with the Berserker Greaves and a stinger, maybe some with the Nashor's Tooth, to get used to the lethal tempo, and try and make your orb blocking as smooth as possible, because this is what's really going to separate the poor Kayle players from the extremely good ones. Another thing you can kind of do to help you if you're not the best with orb blocking and kiting is you can pick up something like a Rylai's that will give you an increased slow and make it a little bit more forgiving in being able to slow them when they are trying to run at you. So just kind of just play around. Maybe if it's the first game of your day, just go into a practice tool and do a little bit of orb blocking and make sure that you have it down packed for this champion, because it is extremely important for top laners to get this, because I know the ADCs are not going to be playing too much top lane, so it's going to be a little bit of a different skill if you're just used to melee champions. And that will wrap up tip number 3. Alright, and getting into tip number 4, I want to talk a little bit about the E, because it's changed. My cat's going crazy. It's changed a little bit since the rework, in how it provides an execute, where it used to just kind of be something you would want always up. So I want you guys to kind of use this a little bit differently than how you used to. You used to just be like, okay, I'm just going to press my E and I'm going to take a trade. Now you kind of want to get off a full rotation and then do your E and get that big execute damage. Wow, that did 1500 damage. That's pretty insane. And use this more at the opportune time. Maybe it gets upgraded at level 6, so it's going to splash to other enemies. If you see a bunch of people at low health, this is going to be an insane amount of damage you're going to be able to pump out in a single global. So keep this in mind, that it is now an execute. It is not something that you just always want up, always, and just smashing your E button over and over again whenever it's off cooldown. If you want any tips on this, obviously you can comment down below and I will help you out and just kind of understand the trades. Always try and end your trades with your E. Obviously, you don't have to be like, oh, I need to use this for a kill. It's not like an Urgot ult, but you always want to try and use it at the most opportune time. And it does have a relatively low cooldown, so maybe you could start the fight off when you have max CDR with it, but just keep in mind that this has a really strong execute component to it that's randomly scaling with HP, which is pretty interesting. I wonder if there's going to be any high HP builds that are going to come out about this. I've been looking at pro builds a little bit, and it looks like there's a couple people actually building Triforce, which is really random, and a couple of HP builds, which is pretty interesting because she's going to have some decent scaling, but we'll see how it goes. Again, this video is being released right when she is being released on the live, so it's going to be a lot of people trying a bunch of different things, so just make sure that you are using the E at the opportune time, and that will wrap up this tip. Alright, and tip number 5. Now this is going to be a little bit about your itemization. It's going to be extremely important. The great thing I think about Kayle is that she has an insane amount of just kind of her ability to go to different items and still have an extremely strong scaling compared to an ADC that's kind of stuck down that infinity double zeal item build path, where Kayle can kind of build a little bit more for the current state. Now, if there's an extremely heavy AP enemy team, Wit's End can be a great pickup. If they have a bunch of very strong divers, Zhonya is going to be really strong when they have those big ultimates, say going against a Fizz or a Zed, things that really look to burst you out with that one ability. Zhonya is going to be a great item, and it's really cheap, and it has a great build path, so try and look into that. Also, I'm not 100% sold on the Phantom Dancer, but it can provide you with a decent amount of survivability with the lifeline and the crit and the attack speed. So really look at the enemy team comp, what's going on, what is the most important, who's getting the most fed, and how can I best itemize against the enemy. If I'm snowballing really well, maybe I can go something like a Ludens, maybe I can go something like a Spellbinder when I'm really trying to go in. But what I really want to pass on to you guys is so important, is do not just keep building. Say you see a pro build one set and then you just build that over and over again for your first couple weeks of playing Kayle. That's a really very poor mistake. Always look at what you could be doing to the team. Maybe there's very little backline damage. Maybe you need to maximize all your damage because you have so many tanks on your team, which I know is kind of rare in solo queue. You should be looking for a lot more offensive builds. Maybe you have an enchanter support. Maybe you have something like a Jan or Karma, Lulu, that is going to be able to protect you quite a bit, so you don't really have to go into those defensive items as much as you had to before. So really keep in mind, look at your team comp, look at the enemy team comp, and see what's going on. You know, I'm actually going to wrap this up with another one. We'll just do a fucking bonus tip. We'll do tip number 6. With your ult, it's going to be a little bit of a smaller tip. This is an extremely powerful ability that is just an insane amount of damage and the invulnerability now. So what I want you guys to keep in mind is do not end up like that new Taric player that uses their ult invulnerability and then they just get disengaged on. When I want you to use your ult is when people have committed. And what I mean by committed is there are people all around that's put up some dummies and say Ali Sin took a Q in. That is commitment. If he's already used his W, that's a bad example, but maybe a Kha'Zix has jumped in. Something that has committed their mobility spell to go forward. That is when you can use your ult on a primary target. That is extremely important. So do not be that person that gets their ult baited out and then re-engaged on, and do not have that insane tool for that late game team fight that can really separate the game from you winning a game and from losing the game. I don't know why I'm getting AFK warning. I just put down some dummies. God damn it, client. Okay, that will wrap up my video. As always, if you guys have any questions, hit me up in the Discord or in the comments section. If you enjoyed the content, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm going to be trying to put out a few more videos. I'm going to be doing one on Morgana, and I'm going to be doing one on this new patch because I think kind of like a weird idea I'm going to be doing with patch notes that I think it can be kind of fun and a little bit different than what a lot of other people do. So look out for that. As always, guys, you take it easy.